officially going, I'm going to turn things over to Emily for a brief intro, and then I will be moving on. And it looks like that recording is going. So Emily, if you want to take it away.
Great. Hi, everybody. Sorry I haven't been here with you as much as I'd have liked these last 2 days. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the Chief Deputy Director of Programs here at IHCDA. I am happy to join for at least a little bit today in hopes of kind of introducing this ARPA section. I know you guys have probably already gone over some Recovery Act things already, just as you've been in the course of this training, but I wanted to start kind of introducing this by saying this year, Indiana received a pretty significant amount of dollars in American Recovery Plan Act. Gotta love the words, ARPA money. And I think we really have an opportunity here as a network to show our strength as we try to get this funding out and through the door. I also wanted to acknowledge the fact that we learned a lot last year when it comes to the CARES Act money, where we had kind of the same goal to show our strength there. And so there are a few things that, because of those lessons learned, that we have changed. I'm going to go through them real quick, but I know that Tom is going to dig into all the details that you'll want to hear. So a few things that we've changed as lessons learned out of the CARES Act are everything we're doing for ARPA is in rowing and is part of the process. So you won't have anything kind of outside of that normal process to go through. We're doing a greater benefit at the beginning so that we don't have the flushback toward the end of the year. We're hoping not to have to do that again. We're doing some statewide marketing that hopefully will help push some folks who are new to the program or maybe haven't been able to access it in the past, which might increase the number of people being served, but also will be happening at the state level. We are working on a partnership with 211 where they'll be able to help people fill out some of their initial information in hopes of getting you better applications on the front end. We know that there's some sticking points with that we're still working through, but we're hoping to add that additional statewide support. And then also we're going to spend ARPA money first so that we get through it all and then head into our current year dollars. And so that should make it so that we don't have any weird spend downs at the end of the year. And that it incorporates a lot more smoothly into what you're doing from year to year. All of that is to say, we know we have a lot of lessons learned out of CARES Act. We appreciate the work that you guys have done over the last year to try to get that in place and are still doing to get those flushbacks to happen. So thank you. And we're excited about working through this additional ARPA money. It is, like I said, it is a significant amount. We're basically trying to get 2 times a regular year's funding out in 1 year. That's going to take some extra hands on deck. That's going to take some extra work from you all and from us to make sure this happens. And I think we're really excited to get to it. So with that, I will let Tom take it away with all of the details, but I wanted to make sure that you heard from me that I say, this is amazing and big, and we're going to be able to serve more people with a bigger benefit, which is exactly what all of us are trying to do. So let's take this opportunity and make the most of it.
If I can, real fast, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, did the glitch for Amanda waiting in the lobby not go away?
It did not.
Because it still popped up, and I was like, oh, Lord. So are we
I tried to fix that.
Oh, go.
I'm sorry?
I said, are we just supposed to close it out every time it pops up?
Yeah, unfortunately, having everyone removed from the meeting and then removing myself from the meeting did not clear out the lobby. So there's still those 2 phantom instances, and I don't think it's going to go away until this meeting is actually over at 4 o'clock today. I'm not sure where the glitch is, but unfortunately, I've done everything I can think of to do to try to remedy that. So
just create a whole new meeting.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think if we, for the lack of anything better, if we just kind of ignore it, it shouldn't keep popping up. I think it keeps popping up because people try to readmit. So I'm admitting people until you see my face disappear.
I
And
didn't admit anyone because I was like, I don't think I'm supposed to do that because I'm not holding this meeting, so I'm not admitting people to it.
yeah, so as long as we just, do our best to work through it. Sorry, guys.
It's okay.
All right, and I
Thank
will
you.
be sure that I don't click on her either. All right, so thank you for that intro, Emily, and I just want to thank everyone once again for making the time in their schedule to come to this training, and for your participation and attention. So this is the 5th of 6 modules. We are past the halfway point. And I'm aware that I am now in the position that Dave Stewart was in yesterday, where I am the only thing separating you guys from lunch. So I don't have a whole lot of content here, and I'm going to try to get through it as quickly as possible. For this session, we are going to be talking about the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, and how we intend to administer that for program year 2022. So obviously a lot of this is kind of the same as what CARES Act was. Just to give a brief breakdown of how we got from there to here. So the World Health Organization did declare the novel coronavirus disease of 2019, or COVID-19 outbreak, a public health emergency of international concern on January 30th, 2020. The next day, Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar declared COVID-19 a public health emergency for the United States. And Governor Holcomb followed suit, declaring a statewide public health disaster emergency on March 6, 2020. It's so long ago. It's been nearly a year and a half. And as of when I updated this slide, the declaration had been renewed 17 times in total. It is currently in effect until August 30th of 2021. And then earlier this year, March 11th, 2021, President Joseph Biden did sign the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, Public Law 117-2. And the American Rescue Plan Act has a lot of different facets to it, but what is most applicable to us today is that it provided an additional $4.5 billion, that's billion with the B, in supplemental EAP funding for the United States. Congress ran that through their various distribution formulas, and in the end, Indiana received $114,066,354. Now, to put this into perspective, Emily said that we essentially are trying to spend 2 years worth of funding in 1 year. And Emily is honestly selling it a little bit soft there. So our distribution last year, for the LI 021 award, I want to say it was in the area of 74 to 77 million. So this is actually, this supplemental in scare quotes, is actually greater than a full year's allocation. So we are actually trying to spend more than 2 years worth in a single year. So we know that we have our work cut out for us. So the ARPA funding was awarded to Indiana finally after that March 11th date that was signed into law. It was finally distributed to us on May 4th, which, as you will recall, was 11 days before our application period for 2021 closed. So we did have the option of using some ARPA last year, but at that point, with only 11 days left for people to apply, and the idea that if we were going to administer it, we would want to to be able to get it back out to everyone who had already applied for the program year and been approved for the program year, it just did not seem like it was a very good idea, especially with where we were sitting with CARES Act. And so what we were planning to do is we are planning to distribute these funds to all of you in the network prior to the beginning of this program year. The ARPA funding will be valid through September 30th, 2022, so we will only have the program year to run down this $114 million. But we will be administering it much differently than we did the CARES Act. So just to refresh everyone's memory, because I know that there was a lot of kind of crosstalk and different ideas for approaches to CARES Act. But the CARES Act legislation really was written in a very narrow and targeted way that sought to address specifically employment losses due to impacts of the economy in the wake of the pandemic. Whereas the ARPA is a much more broad-ranging piece of recovery legislation. So in line with this distinction, ARPA benefits will not have those kind of stricter eligibility requirements of documenting loss of income that we did have with our initial administration of the CARES Act. So we are going to use ARPA to distribute two separate benefits to households. The primary one is going to be the ARPA Supplemental benefit. And what the ARPA Supplemental benefit is going to do is it's going to provide an additional benefit of up to $350 to every single LIHEAP approved household throughout program year 2022 until those funds are depleted. This will be administered in the form of two flat rate benefits, each one for $175 to the electric and to the primary heating utility. However, and this is the reason it says up to $350, if the household is not eligible for the electricity or heating benefit when eligibility is determined, that household will also not be eligible to receive that corresponding portion of the ARPA supplemental benefit. In other words, in order to keep this automated and low impact on intake, we are not going to be doing any kind of waivers on these benefits. We're going to be doing strictly 175, 175. If a household was ineligible to receive an electricity or heating benefit at the time of application, but becomes eligible to receive this benefit later in the program year, then when the intake awards that regular benefit, they will also be able to award the ARPA supplemental benefit for that specific utility. The second benefit being awarded through the ARPA is the ARPA Erage benefit. So the ARPA Erage benefit is going to provide an additional benefit to cover past due balances on the electric or primary heating source of any LIHEAP eligible household as of eligibility determination at time of application. So the ARPA Erage benefit will be applied after any eligible crisis is applied to a disconnect or reconnect amount on the bill. The ARPA Erage benefit will be able to be applied to disconnect amounts, reconnect amounts, past due amounts that are not presenting an immediate crisis, as well as any additional crisis that's not covered by the initial crisis award. The ARPA Erage, in line with other LIHEAP funds, may not be applied to deposits or any other unallowable LIHEAP charges. And there is no cap. Once again, for clarity, there is absolutely no cap on the ARPA Erage claims. We do ask, however, that you notify us of any claims exceeding $1,000, just so we can kind of keep an eye on what those large benefits are. And I don't know why. Okay. So, is that? In order to qualify for the ARPA supplemental benefit, an applicant household must simply meet all general eligibility requirements for EAP and qualify to receive a benefit to the applicable utility. And that's it. There are no other requirements. In order to qualify for an ARPA Erage benefit, the applicant household must meet the eligibility requirements listed above for the supplemental benefit, and just meet the one additional requirement of presenting with an outstanding past due balance on the electricity and or primary heating bill And that outstanding past due balance may or may not represent a crisis situation. So any active, the other thing to keep in mind with the arrearage is any active payment agreement or payment arrangement will count as an arrearage for the purposes of this benefit, even if, and again, for clarity, even if the applicant is current on their agreement. So that is one really big change from crisis, where we don't count any active payment agreement or arrangement as a crisis. We are going to count any outstanding payment arrangement as an arrearage, even if they're still keeping up with it. So as far as calculating the benefits specifically for the arrearage, since there is no calculation when it comes to the supplemental, this is going to require an adjustment to our order of benefit application. So benefits are now going to be applied in this order. So first, we're going to apply any eligible crisis. Then we would look and see if they're eligible for any ARPA arrearage after the crisis has been applied. Then the regular and the ARPA supplemental. Now there is a note here about local or utility funds. They may be assessed either before or after the regular and ARPA supplemental, depending really on those specific funds, rules, and guidelines. However, crisis and ARPA arrearage must be the first and second funding sources or benefits applied as long as a household presents with any past due balance. And if a household has a separate heating utility that's not electric, then you're just going to repeat this sequence for the heating utility. So I kind of created a few examples just to kind of help everyone think through this and really grasp what we're trying to do with this. So some of these examples might not necessarily be completely within the realm of reality, but I just wanted to make sure that I was addressing how we should be looking at these when they come across and really try to get across the underlying fundamentals here. So first example, in this example, the applicant is in a total electric household, and they present at the time of application with a $642 electric bill. Current charges are $192, which leaves $450 in past due amount, $138 of which is needed to avoid that disconnection, and they have no outstanding deposit. So following the order of application of benefits, first, you are going to apply the crisis amount. Again, that amount needed to avoid disconnect is $138. So we're going to give them $138 in crisis in order to stop that disconnection. The applicant, because they're a total electric household, they have $500 in crisis available. So since we're only using $138, they will have $362 in crisis remaining that they can come back for after moratorium if they end up in crisis again once moratorium protection ends. So the next piece we're going to look at is the ARPA arrearage. So we've already handled $138 of that $450 that was past due, and that leaves $312. So we are going to then give them $312 in ARPA arrearage to address that entire past due balance. That's going to bring their bill current, which is the current charges are $192. But however, the current charges are not covered by ARPA arrearage benefits. We're then going to apply regular funds. That obviously, because the electric is the heating source as well as just what powers the heating, that full regular benefit will be determined based on the matrix and will be applied to current charges. Since the applicant is total electric, we know that they're going to get at least, I want to say $325 is going to be the minimum that they're going to get. And they already have they only have $192 in current charges. So we know that regular benefit is going to create a positive account balance going forward. So already we've created a positive balance out of this $642 bill. And then finally, since they're total electric, their ARPA supplemental, they're going to get the full $350 to that electric bill. So that's just going to add to that positive account balance. Example number 2. In this example, an applicant heats with gas. The applicant presents with a $642 electric bill. Current charges are $192, $450, so the charges are past due, $138 needed to avoid disconnection, no outstanding deposit. The gas bill, however, is current. So this is very similar to the last situation, except that we have separate heating and electric bills here. So for crisis, applicant once again will receive $138 in crisis to electric to stop disconnection. However, because they have a separate heating bill, they're only eligible for $250 crisis to electric. So they'll still have $112 remaining after moratorium, but they won't have as much as that first applicant did. The applicant will receive no crisis to gas and will have $250 remaining to address any gas crisis after moratorium protection ends. ARPA Erage. We are still going to give $312 in ARPA Erage to electric to address that past due balance. That will bring the bill current. However, current the charges are not covered by ARPA Erage benefits. Once again, since the gas bill is current, there is no ARPA Erage to the gas. Regular, you're going to apply $125 regular to the current electric charges. And that's just because they get that standard $125 flat rate electric benefit whenever they have a heating source that's not electric. The gas benefit will be based on the matrix. And then the ARPA supplemental, we're going to give them $175 to the electric, $175 to the gas. So the gas is just going to build on whatever balance is left after that regular benefit was given to them. But the electric, we've taken it from a $642 bill to a $108 positive balance when all was said and done. Example number 3. In this example, the applicant heats with biofuel, with firewood. Applicant is further presenting with a $2,420 electric bill. Current charges are $250, which includes $100 in current usage and $150 due in a payment arrangement installment. The payment arrangement total is for $2,320, hence that $100 current usage, and $150 is required to stop that disconnection. So they're needing to pay at least their outstanding payment arrangement. So first, we're going to look at what we need to do for crisis. So because they heat with firewood, they are going to get that $250 in crisis immediately. That's going to help with the cost of delivering and the fact that they can kind of run out at any time. And because they have $150 immediate disconnect amount on their electric, we're going to award $150 in crisis to the electric. The applicant will have $100 in crisis remaining for after moratorium ends for the electric. However, that is going to completely expend their crisis for heating. Next, we look at the ARPA Erage. As we've already said, as I said kind of at the top of this training, we are going to count an active payment arrangement, whether they are current on it or not, as eligible for arrearage benefits. And so once we pay that $150 current payment arrangement installment, that's still going to leave $2,000, and I made a mistake there possibly. No, I didn't. $2,170 in arrearages with $100 in current usage. So we are going to be able to pay $2,170 in the ARPA arrearage benefits to this client's account that will completely wipe out all of their past due and bring the bill current. Remember, the current charges are not covered by ARPA Erage benefits. And because biofuels, typically they're not going to be running an account with any arrearages, we're not going to award any ARPA arrearage to the biofuel. Next, we would look at the regular amount, $125 to the regular, and the biofuel benefit, of course, is based on the matrix. And finally, we are going to award $175 ARPA supplemental to both biofuel and electric. When all is said and done, and we've applied all of these benefits, we have taken an electric bill in which an applicant owes $2,420. We have wiped out that entire amount, and we've actually given them a $200 positive balance moving forward. So the point I'm trying to make with this is, especially with the fact that we are not providing a cap on these arrearage benefits, we know that there are some amazingly large arrearages out there. We know that some of the utility vendors were very generous with their payment extensions and payment plans, much more so even than what IURC and Governor Holcomb required, and have continued to be lenient with applicants or with their customers, especially customers who they know to be low income. And we have some very, very, very large arrearages out there. And this amount of money that we have received through the ARPA is allowing us to, for one time only, make some really amazingly transformative pledges and benefits towards our clients' accounts. And I'm really excited to see what we're able to do for people in terms of just creating opportunities for them to turn their billing cycles around. Next example, applicant heats with gas. This applicant presents with a $968 electric bill and a $1,248 gas bill. Electric bill shows $648 in an active payment agreement with no disconnection scheduled. Gas bill shows a past due balance of $1,142 with $450 required to prevent disconnection. Crisis. Applicant receives $250 in crisis to heating in order to stop that disconnection. Because there is no disconnection on the electric bill, it's all covered in an active payment agreement. The applicant is not going to receive any crisis to the electric. Note that we are paying that maximum $250 to the heating. They do have a $450 disconnection, so that crisis is not quite enough to fully satisfy the crisis. However, when we come to the ARPA arrearage, we are going to award the full $648 in ARPA arrearage to electric in order to address that entire outstanding payment agreement. And then we are going to award $892 in ARPA arrearage to gas, and that is going to both supplement the crisis and cover that remaining $200 in disconnect amount, plus address the other $692 remaining in that past due balance. So this ARPA arrearage benefit will bring both of their bills current without covering any of the current charges. We then will award $125 in regular to the electric current charges, as well as a regular heating benefit based on the matrix. And finally, we will award $175 in ARPA supplemental to both the gas and the electric. I think this is the final example that I have. So in this example, the applicant heats with gas. However, their furnace is inoperable. Applicant presents with a $525 electric bill and a $120 gas bill. The electric bill shows $225 past due, with all $225 needed to prevent disconnection, $300 in current charges. Gas bill is from December 2020, and the service is disconnected. So the crisis, the applicant will receive $225 in crisis electric to stop that disconnection. The applicant may receive $120 crisis in gas in order to restore service as long as the furnace is repaired or replaced. However, at the time of application, we are not going to be eligible to release that benefit. Arpa Erage benefit, the applicant will actually not be eligible to receive an Arpa Erage to either utility. In terms of the electric, that entire past due balance is covered by crisis, and there's no additional past due balance that's not a crisis. And gas is not eligible for benefits due to being inoperable. Once again, even if the service is restored after the furnace is repaired or replaced, the entire restoration amount will actually be covered by the crisis. Regular, we are going to give $125 to the electric to current charges. That heating benefit will be based on the matrix, but it is going to be deferred until that furnace is either repaired or replaced. And finally, Arpa Supplemental. In this case, the client is immediately going to receive $175 in Arpa Supplemental funding to the electric. The applicant will be ineligible for the heating benefit at the time of application. However, if the furnace is repaired or replaced, the applicant may then receive the release of the Arpa supplemental to the gas, along with the regular heating claim and the crisis claim to help restore that service. So I hope those various examples helped shed some light on how to think about this. I'm trying to get through these slides so I can build in some time for discussion. I know that it's a lot. I also know that we have 17 minutes until my time is up, so I'm going to try to move through these last few slides. So just some other considerations with ARPA. Remember, the ARPA Erage, because of the way this bill is written, it is we are looking to help people who have developed some outstanding arrearages due to the fallout from COVID-19. So we do have guidance in the manual about the about paying on old arrearages. In general, it's disallowed for more than a year out unless you kind of have a really good reason to waive that. We are looking for ARPA arrearage to be used to pay off debts that were accrued during the pandemic, if possible. We really are looking for them not to be used to pay off like years old debts. But you know, there might be a good reason to do so. So if you do come across that situation, just do what you would normally do when you come across those situations. Open a line of communication with us, talk to us about the situation, advocate for what you are wanting to see and why. You know, we're all happy to hear from the network, and I like to think that we're all very reasonable people. So we would definitely want to hear from you and work with you on that. ARPA supplemental is eligible to be awarded to by a few clients as well as the clients with utilities included in the rent. So we will be distributing ARPA supplemental along with regular benefits through direct payment checks. However, these households generally are not going to be eligible to receive ARPA arrearage benefits. As far as utilities included in the rent, that is what we have the IERA for. And of course, the 6 areas of the state that have their own funding for the rental assistance program. And we really would like to see those clients use those programs because I think it's a little bit problematic when we use a program that is explicitly for utilities to pay towards the rent without necessarily figuring out exactly how much of that arrearage is due to the portion that pays for utilities, if that makes sense. I think it becomes really problematic at that point. So we really need to lean on the rental assistance programs that are in place for those situations. When communicating with applicants, and especially if they ask you questions about the ARPA benefit once they receive their notification letters, we really, really strongly want to encourage you to be transparent about the fact that this is a one-time only supplemental benefit and does not represent a permanent change in the funding that we receive or the benefits that we will be able to provide. And as Emily mentioned at the top, we are going to be engaging in some pretty heavy statewide marketing, which I know that we haven't necessarily done in the past. And so I'm confident that this is also going to be part of our messaging. But if our applicants are hearing the same message from multiple sources and through multiple venues, I think that's really going to help that message sink in, so that hopefully we won't have to hear next year about how, well, I got this last year. We just really want to be very upfront and transparent with our applicants and not set up false expectations. And then, much like Emily said at the beginning, our intention absolutely is to obligate and expend ARPA completely by May 16th. We would very, very, very much like to avoid an additional supplemental benefit batch like we are currently in with CARES Act, and I feel confident that you all are on the same page with wanting to avoid that. Let's talk about the ARPA budget. ARPA is eligible for the 7.5% of total expenditures to administrative costs. We also are going to be opening up the 4.5% to the outreach and eligibility determination line item. However, we're not going to be running any Assurance 16 emergency services or emergency repair and replace against the ARPA award. There's going to be an important distinction coming up in just a minute here, but the language there that they may not be claimed against the award is pretty intentional. And I think this is my last slide. Just remember, when it comes to those administrative costs and outreach and eligibility determination costs, because of the one-time limited nature of this stimulus award, IHCDA is strongly encouraging all of our subgrantees to be thoughtful, innovative, intentional with how you're using this funding. Just as an example that has come up in the past, if you're intending to use this ARPA funding specifically to fund salary increases or creating ongoing recurring costs, we're not telling you can't do that, but just think about what the unintended consequences that might be, because it might not be sustainable next year if LIHEAP itself is not increased. And I know that there are proposals right now being considered by Congress to create kind of 5-year increases in LIHEAP. But my understanding of the situation on the floor in Congress right now is that is far from a sure thing. And so just bear in mind whether the changes that you're making with these funds might be sustainable, because we would love to see agencies be able to pay intake higher rates, but we would hate to see those increases be instituted and then have to be taken away just because of the reality of funding. So what we are suggesting with this award is that it might be best used to fund innovative outreach activities, infrastructure improvements, technology enhancements, or investing in tools that will help your intake work more efficiently and effectively. And just to reiterate what I just said a moment ago, we are not implementing any additional rules or restrictions on the administrative outreach and eligibility determination line items for the ARPA award. We just want you to think about how sustainable any changes you make are. So much like we're saying with the applicants, we don't want to create any false expectations or precedents that can't be sustained. That brings me to the end of my slideshow. I do
really great questions in the chat.
Cool. Before we get to those questions, I just want to put a word out that we'll probably be digging into a little bit more in the final session about budgets. But I want to kind of build on something that Emily alluded to earlier. So we are planning on releasing ARPA funding to the network early, prior to October 1, I want to say. in order to kickstart the program year. And that's going to be another way of us avoiding a benefit flush, hopefully at the end of the year. Basically, even though we are going to be allocating benefits according to the funding program, the way we always do, the way we kind of have to by federal requirements, we're basically intending to use the ARPA, which is available to us now, especially since we don't know when the LI award is going to be released to us. We are intending to use that along the lines of how the reallotment award was used a couple years ago. I know that some of you probably just got chills when I used the word reallotment award. I know that that was not a fun process, I think, for most of us, possibly not for any of us. I do think that we have all, and I'm talking everyone, I'm talking, IHCDA program staff, network staff, IHCDA fiscal staff. I think we've all probably learned some lessons from some of the unintended consequences from how the reallotment awards were run. And so we intend to really think through how we do it, be very intentional about it, and to be very communicative with everyone along the way. I think it will probably still lead to some increased difficulties in some of the reporting, specifically for aggregate reporting for the year. But we're going to make sure that we have some procedures and some guidance in place in order to really help you all out with that. So yeah, so we should hopefully dig into that a little bit in the next session as well, and hopefully have some discussion around that. All right, if anyone wants to start throwing some of those chat questions at me, that would be super helpful.
I've got you.
Cool.
One question is, how do you want us to notify you of ARPA arrearages that go over $1,000?
LIHEAP inbox, probably just something very simple in the subject line, like large ARPA arrearage benefit, something like that. Just keep it simple, and Sam and I can work to kind of have a folder in the inbox to just collect those, just so we have the documentation.
Great. Can an ARPA arrearage be applied to an account that is in collections as long as it excludes the deposit amount and is less than a year old?
As long as it is also going to provide continuing service in some way. That continuing service requirement does not go away.
Ooh, here's an important one.
Yes.
Is this one and done, or will they be able to come back after moratorium to get more ARPA arrearage?
Great question. So ARPA arrearage. So part of the way it's written in policy, it is determined at the time of application. It is a one and done. Especially since we say there's no cap, that creates the idea, the possibility of, if people are able to come back, they could come back indefinitely. And we definitely don't want people to kind of take advantage of that and use it to avoid paying their own bills. So yeah, it is going to be at the bill at the time of application, and that's it. After moratorium, it's whatever crisis they have left, and that's it.
Great. This one is a comment, but I'm going to say it out loud because it is true. That is, wow, this is amazing, but it's alarming because if we make an error in eligibility, there's a huge possible payback situation. Yes.
Yeah. That's a very good point, and that's something I honestly had not really taken into consideration. So it's a couple years out of being in that situation is enough to make it where, like, that's kind of not at the forefront of my thought. we have been able to bring in some great additional team members this year, which hopefully a lot of you have noticed. We brought in Liz to help us with the customer service, and we brought in Gabe to help with vendor relations. And what that's going to do, really, in addition to the great work that they're doing, that's helping out all of you, it's also going to help out Sam and I in terms of building up capacity. So I know that. That's at times when agencies have reached out to us, sometimes timeliness has not been the best. And I do want to assure everyone that Sam and I really have been making every effort to do the best we can. But sometimes it really was just a matter of capacity. Liz and Gabe being on the team now will really build up that capacity to be able to focus on those larger issues. And I think that's exactly the kind of thing that that we should have a lot more time to be able to address in a timely manner. If you reach out to us and you want just a second set of eyes on things, if you want a gut check and make sure that you're approaching it properly, I really want to be very collaborative with the network because yeah, there is a lot of potential here, and the last thing that we want is the unintended consequence of putting you guys in a situation where you're really having difficulties with paybacks from your unrestricted funds. We do not want to see you having to use your unrestricted funds in that way.
Absolutely. All right. So long as the due date is passed on the bill, the balance is considered an arrearage, correct?
Sorry, run that by me one more time.
So long as the due date on the bill has passed, the balance of that bill is considered an arrearage?
And I'm gonna have to think on that one because that's getting into making some assumptions. Right. Yeah, I'm gonna have to think on that one. I will put that on my list of things to think about and get back to the network on, hopefully in time for the Q&A session next Tuesday.
In your final example, why did you not pay off the bill, the rest of that bill with ARPA crisis, which I think they mean ARPA arrearage?
Can you clarify on that last example, whoever had that, whether they're talking about the electric or the gas bill? And I can pull that slide up. I have the slide pulled up. I'll share it so that everyone can see what I'm talking about. So I'll kind of speak to both. So in this case, the $225 on the electric is past due, and the entire $225 is needed to prevent disconnection. So once we cover that $225 disconnect amount, that's also the entire past due amount. And so that the remaining $300 in this example, which again may be a real world example or may not, I was just trying to throw together different scenarios. But that entire $300 is actually a current amount, not past due. We've covered that entire past due with crisis. And on the gas bill, they have $120 that's past due from December 2020. But it's disconnected. So right now, we could give the $120 in crisis in order to reconnect the bill, which actually would be providing continuing service. But according to our rules, because the furnace is inoperable, we're actually not able to make a claim against an inoperable heat source. So once they get that furnace repaired or replaced, we can give $120 in crisis to restore service that will provide continuing service. However, that $120 is going to cover that entire past due amount, so there is no further arrearage. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, this is Lisa, and I was the one that asked the question.
Okay.
I guess I was, from the other examples, I guess I was sort of gathering that the ARPA arrearage was to pay off the entire rest of the bill. That's not true. It's only to pay off the entire rest of whatever's left in crisis.
Whatever's left in crisis or past due, but not considered enough past due to contribute to an immediate turnoff. So in this example, basically, because the $225 disconnect amount is the entire past due amount, that means that $300 that's remaining is all current month charges.
Okay, so the ARPA arrearage is only to cover what might be remaining in arrearage.
Yeah, always at least 30 days past due. It's never going to be current month charges, current charges that are billed, for the previous month.
And we are using the bill that they gave us as long as it is current. We're not calling the vendors every time. We're just using that amount like we normally do.
Exactly. So if they've already paid on that, since getting that bill, hey, they got a little bit of an extra bonus kick out of it.
Okay,
Whatever.
Very good. Thank you.
It's not going to be a major concern of ours.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
All right, Tom, we have about 4 or 5 more questions, but I realize that we're over the 12:30 time, so it's up to you what you'd like to do.
I'll put it up to the group. Is there anyone burning? You know what? Anyone who wants to leave now can leave now and go to lunch. Let's get through these 4 or 5 questions. Anyone who does leave, it'll be on the recording. Let's just burn through them because I don't want to set the final session back too much.
Cool. All right. Will there be 2 separate deposits / checks for the utilities included in rent clients for regular and ARPA claims?
That is going to be a program accounting question that I honestly cannot answer. And I'm not sure that they're going to have an answer right now either before things are set up. So yeah, I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if it came as 1 check.
That's my assumption. It seems like they usually recognize when it's the same recipient and they tend to combine them. But there might be cases, especially if the transmittals come through at different times where, it might be separate.
In your examples, your utilities seem as though they're from 2 different vendors. Our biggest vendor is NIPSCO, and the bills and disconnects are not separated out like your examples. Do we need to break up those utility services?
Yeah, so this has been an ongoing discussion that we've been having with NIPSCO. I will be. I actually do have a meeting with Tawana on Friday, so this will be a good thing for me to bring up to her raise up to her attention and see where they are with that. Because last I knew, they were still working on separating them out. That was the last discussion we had about it. So I will talk with Tawana. And is this Rosa or Gina by chance?
It's Rosa.
I figured. Rosa, I'll let you know after I talk with Tawana where we are, and I'll work with you.
Cool. Can ARPA Supplemental be issued to clients with balances over $500 regulated or $750 unregulated?
So that's going to fall in because that gets applied after the regular. If the regular, if they're not getting that regular, we're also going to withhold that ARPA until that balance is spent down. Yeah, so that will follow along with whatever you do with that regular. Yes, Amanda and Lisa, I will definitely let you all know as well. And Ingrid, I'm pretty sure you have NIPSCO, and there are a few others. I have access to the vendor database, so I know who has NIPSCO. I'll let everyone know.
Great. Another question. Are we to use the dollar amounts on the current bill provided? You answered that. I'm trying to look here to see if any of these are actual questions. There's great conversation going on in the chat. They're requesting, it looks like there's a request for really clear guidance on what to consider an arrearage. So we may want to put in writing anything that is on a bill that is listed as current month is not an arrearage. We might just want to put that in writing.
Yeah, I can add a quick revision to the manual on that. There's already a couple of things I'm revising anyway.
Cool. And then I think this is the last question, which is, so it's possible that someone will receive an ARPA arrearage, but not crisis. Is that true?
Yes, if they have a past due amount, and this is a really great question. If they have a past due amount, but none of it is actually leading to the scheduling of a disconnection, then absolutely. And the other case is, and I think this might have been actually in one of my examples. I think I had someone where they had a payment arrangement and they were current on it, so there was no disconnect amount, but we were able to take care of the entire payment arrangement of like $1,000 or something like that in the example. So yeah, so if they have any past due amount, including a payment agreement that they may or may not be current on, and no disconnect, they will receive ARPA arrearage, but not crisis, which will actually work out well for them because the ARPA arrearage there's no cap on, and then the crisis, they'll have their entire crisis amount available to them if they fall into disconnect after moratorium protection ends.
Great. Those are our questions.
All right. So thank you everyone for your attention. We got through that in pretty good time. It was just about an hour since we're about 8 minutes over. I'm going to try to get the last session started right at 1:30, 12:30 Central. So I know that shaves a little bit off of our hour. But if some people are late coming back, don't worry. Like I said, it will be recorded. It'll be posted probably early next week. Yeah, thanks everyone. See everyone in an hour or 50 minutes.